taking shape. The Senate today confirmed former Texas Governor Rick Perry to head the Energy Department and retired neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson to lead the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Caterpillar Incorporated is dealing with the fallout from a federal raid at its Illinois offices today. The IRS, FDIC, and Commerce Department executed a search warrant at offices in Peoria, East Peoria, and Morton. Tom Roberts, NBC News Radio.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Tom Ladd. For this afternoon, it'll be sunny. Expect a high near 75. Clear tonight with a low near 49. Sunny Friday. Expect a high of 78. Clear Friday night with a low near 51. Saturday it'll be sunny. Expect a high near 70. Saturday night cloudy with a low near 49. And for Sunday, chance of showers after 11 a.m. Cloudy with the high near 61. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM. 3-in-1, the trifecta of talk in Southern California.
This report has been brought to you by Unbound. Do something meaningful today. Change a life of a child living in poverty. Learn more at unbound.org.
Did you know that 80 to 85% of children's brains are developed by the time they are 3 years old? The San Bernardino City Unified School District is sponsoring free parenting education classes for families of children ages 0 to 36 months. Classes include free childcare, a light meal, children's books to take home, and weekly giveaways. Graduates earn a certificate of completion. For more information, please visit www.infanttoddlersuccess.org or call 909-347-7313.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the greatest real estate investment show ever. Here's the flip-flop investor himself, Todd Bayer.
Hey everyone, how we doing out there in Radio Land? This is the Flip-Flop Investor Show, and I am your host, Todd Bayer. This week, or every week, we get together here and we talk about real estate investing in the Inland Empire as well as anywhere. We could talk about real estate pretty much anywhere. I forgot to silence my phone, so it's over here making all kinds of noise.
Don't do that.
Yeah, that's against the rules. Today with me in the studio, I'm actually really excited, and I know a lot of you know out there that I like to have experts in the studio. And today we have Andy Teasley. How you doing, Andy?
Richly blessed. How about you, Todd?
I'm doing great as always. You know, when you work in something that you love doing, it's never actually work.
Well, that's that four-letter word I've been trying to avoid since I was 23. So.
Right. Yeah, well, you're unhireable too, huh?
That's it. I do pretty good for a guy who's unemployable.
I'd probably be the worst employee if I were to actually apply for a job. So you've been investing for at least a couple years now.
A day or two, yeah. It's something like that.
This is day 2 on the job for you.
That's right.
How long have you actually been? When did you? Because we'll go back into the backstory. I know a lot of people want to know who you are and what you do. So if we go back into the good old days of Andy Teasley, you got started kind of in the deal-making entrepreneurial world, really.
Yeah, I was really blessed in that I worked for a gentleman in the later part of his years, and he needed somebody who was young and had a strong back to come load trucks and unload trucks, and I was drug into L.A. by a gentleman I consider one of my best mentors and taught the fine art of buying stuff.
Just stuff.
Yeah, well, it was stuff, supplies for his concession stands. I worked at pools in Riverside and football games and all that. And I learned that you walk in the back door of the warehouse, you act like you own the joint, and if you do it just right, the owner jumps out and you don't have to deal with a bunch of underlings. You walk through and you point to things that look like they need to get out of the warehouse, and you buy them at a really cheap price. And that was great education for a 16-year-old kid, you know, and it served me really well as life has progressed.
So working concession stands at 16 years old out in Riverside, and then from there, what did you do?
Oh, let's see. Well, I went to Cal Poly and studied civil engineering.
Great school for that.
Yeah, it's excellent. So it's the good one, you know, the Pomona one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, right after that, I bought a restaurant when I was 23.
What kind of restaurant?
Well, it was a fried chicken place on University Avenue in Riverside. It was the last pail of chicken that was in business. We rebranded it to our own company and tried to make it delivering chicken because I'd been raised in pizza. It cost us about $70,000 in 2 years of our lives. So I always say that's my MBA because it cost about the same as going to USC at the time. And I think I probably learned more there than I would have in school. So
You bought it as a franchise?
it was the last of the franchise.
So
we never paid any franchise fees, and we changed the name.
Got it. Okay. I've seen that happen, on other franchise companies out there.
Sure. And unfortunately, I was 23, didn't know any better, and bought a chicken restaurant in the right part of town, but within a mile of our front door was every major chain, and we lost our butt. And about a year into it, my mentor came, and I said, this isn't working. He said, yeah, I know it wouldn't. He said,
Thanks for the heads up.
yeah, I said, well, why didn't you tell me? He said, well, if I told you, you'd have still done it, and you wouldn't have learned anything. He
True.
said, the important lesson is that you lost time, you lost money here, but how much education can you take away from this? And that was a really good lesson because every deal you have that goes bad can either just be a bad thing or it can be an education.
And yeah, we call it the Flip Flop Investor Show because we talk about flips and flops, and we always learn more from the flops than we do from the flips.
Absolutely. If you choose to, you have to pay attention. Some people just want to lick their wounds, and that's where they stop.
Yeah, well, you get good at doing that. You learn how to lick your wounds faster.
That's it. And take notes for next time.
Yeah, and when you get into the big game, you learn how to make a loss into a good thing with PR and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, it's I don't know how much PR I ever got out of a loss, but I've sure gotten some scabs and some calluses, as it were.
Sure. So, restaurant goes belly up. Now you're looking for another venture, I'm sure, because that's how entrepreneurs work.
Well, actually, I had already found the other venture, and we were building it at the time. It was interesting. I was always in the snack bar business being a kid, and that was the business that bought the restaurant was a snack bar business. And we had 2 phone lines, so we could stick an ad in the yellow pages, and we put an ad in there under carnival supplies for rent, thinking that we would go do cotton candy and snow cones and things like that at Catholic church festivals and things along those lines. And so we advertised in the yellow pages, and the phone rang, and after 3 or 4 churches called to rent game booths for their carnival, my partner and I said to each other, we probably should have some game booths to rent. So we said yes to the Metropolitan Community Church in Redlands, and when they called and asked for game booths, and then we had to run out and build 30 game booths so we could have rental game booths, and we did that. And we're in the middle of running the restaurant as we did this. One night, late at night, a carnival pulls in and parks in the grocery store across the street, and all the equipment comes in there, and they all come into the restaurant to have dinner. So, of course, being the talker that I am, I struck up a conversation with the guy that owned the carnival, and he agreed that when his churches needed rental booths, he'd tell them about me, and when my churches needed a carnival, I'd tell them about him. So we formed a loose partnership.
Okay.
And I went out and booked a year of events and was going good for about 3 months. And then he decided he didn't want to stay in Southern California anymore, and he informed me that the carnival was going to the Central Valley up near Fresno. And I said, we've got contracts to fill. And he said, I don't care.
Okay.
So I found myself with contracts to churches, promised to do carnivals for them, and no carnival. So we built a carnival from scratch. We did what we did. You've heard of a pickup basketball game.
Yeah.
Well, we had a pickup carnival. You never knew what we were going to have. I called all the people that rented carnival games in the phone book.
Yeah.
And told them anything you've got that's not working, bring it out. We'll split money, and you'll make some money. No need letting your equipment sit idle. So some weeks we'd have a really big show. Some weeks we'd have a really small show. But we made it and started buying rides. And by the end of that, we had a dozen rides, half adult, half kiddie rides. And we worked 40 weeks a year doing church festivals for the most part.
Wow. That's it's a pretty good story, that you started off something kind of, on a whim, I guess.
I never have written a business plan. It just sort of happens.
Very true. I think I did write the only business I wrote a business plan for. I ended up not doing.
There you go. It's that potential project that you write about for school.
Yeah. So you're in the carnival business. You did that for what, a few years, or?
Oh yeah, a dozen years,
Okay.
and then got married. My wife said, "If you want kids, you're not staying in that business. You're too busy, too involved." So, got out of the business, sold it, and ended up in the holiday decorating business, and that was the next venture. The nice thing about being in the holiday decorating business is you work your butt off for 3 months of the year,
Yeah.
18 hours a day, 7 days a week. But 9 months of the year, you have time to go out and pursue other interests, which allowed me to become a real estate investor.
So you were doing a lot of Christmas lights. I know a lot of people still call you Christmas Andy.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We did a ton of them. We were hanging at our peak. We hung almost 5,000 pole decorations in 4 states.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work, and we had a good crew and did a lot of business. But it also got old, and 2007 happened, and that was pretty much the end of the profitability of that business.
Sure.
Thankfully, I'd been buying and selling land all the time as well, so my real estate income was able to take care of paying the bills, and we got past the crash. The bank started paying us. They were selling us lots at a discount and throwing the house in for free.
Right.
So we took all of that we could figure out a way to borrow and pay for.
Is that pretty much how you? Is that how you started getting into real estate? What were your first real estate deals?
Oh, my first real estate deals were land.
It's just buying raw land.
Because I had learned the fine art of buying something cheap with negotiating skills I'd learned as a kid,
Right.
and then selling it and carrying the paper, because the financing was worth more than the profit on the deal. And if you structured your acquisition right, then the down payment would actually cover your cost of acquisition, and you basically got the income from that note for free.
Yeah, and that's a great strategy.
It works really well until the world crashes and suddenly
Nobody's paying your notes.
that's it. And you end up, as Jimmy Napier says, a lot of them chose to put it back.
Yeah.
So we got a few pieces of property put back. I think I still own about 300 acres of Riverside County and various pieces here and there.
Yeah.
But I haven't been willing to give them away, and you can't compete with a bank that's going to give away a lot at a discount and include a house on top of it.
Right.
So the land is waiting for somebody to decide it's time to build, and when they do, I'll be selling it all and financing that. And in the meantime, I bought a bunch of rental houses and enjoyed being a landlord. Still do. We've gone through and eliminated a lot of the inventory, and it just ended up to where what I have now is basically free and clear.
Yeah.
A few debts to family that doesn't, those debts don't count because when I pay them, it's basically going to end up going to my kids anyhow. So
Okay. So, but some people call that a family bank.
yeah, family bank is a good term for it, and we are able to pay more to them than they can earn other ways.
Right.
So that's the joy of financing things.
Yeah, I was reading actually yesterday, the sitting chair for the Securities Exchange Commission, he was talking about accredited versus non-accredited investors, and he's saying that the rules on what makes you accredited or non-accredited are actually broadening the wealth gap because people that are non-accredited don't have access to the same investment opportunities that accredited investors do.
I don't know why that's news to him. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki wrote about that 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's just good to see that somebody that finally in that position is taking a stance on something like that, where where maybe middle class people can actually get into mortgage notes, things like that, things that are actually fairly secure and produce a much solid return.
Oh yeah, and there's been a lot of problems. The government has to accept responsibility for most of the crash. When you go to a bank and tell them you're not lending in this neighborhood, and you say it's because they can't afford to make a payment, the fact that that's true isn't relative. It really is that you're a racist bastard,
right?
And we're going to put your bank out of business if you don't write loans in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Then, amazing thing, the people that should never have been able to borrow money to buy a home lose their home when things crash, and
Sure.
that's the evil bank's fault because they did what they were forced to do by the government.
Right.
And then the government, in its ultimate wisdom, decides that they're going to make it tougher for people to sell their own home and finance it and carry the paper.
Right.
That used to be really, really popular.
Yeah.
Now it's the exception, not the rule. Most people, I mean, if you have enjoyed a house, you've lived there, you raised your kids there, you've got a 5-bedroom house, and it's a nice house, and there's just you and your wife, the kids are all gone, you don't need all that square footage.
Yeah.
It's time to sell.
Sure, but if you sell, it creates a nice taxable event for yourself.
It can.
Possibly.
And what do you do with that pile of cash? I mean, currently the bank is manipulating the market to the point where interest is so cheap, you can't make enough on it to pay your bills, and you don't need that pile of cash.
You're not talking about one of those nice certificates of deposit at the bank where you can earn, a fraction of a percentage.
God,
or
don't
anything
you
like
love
that.
those ads?
I do love them, actually, because, I'm able to show
comical.
people a way to make more interest. But
Absolutely. And I have yet to meet somebody who wants to take $100,000 or $200,000 worth of $100 bills, put them on the kitchen table, and build a little shrine to their pile of cash. So nobody really needs that big pile of cash. They need something.
yeah, I know a lot of people, when they do have a large sum of cash sitting in a checking account, some kind of easily liquidatable account like a checking account, it gets spent on useless stuff.
Absolutely. And,
You
we all have that relative who's got they raised 4 good kids, and the 5th one is just sort of that serial entrepreneur who never kind of catches traction, and he just keeps doing different things.
Never met him.
And yeah, we don't know anybody like that.
Yeah.
And knowing that pile of cash is in that checking account, that gives him access, and that's what happens to a lot of those piles of cash. And often those seniors would be much better off if instead of selling that home for cash, they have an income stream.
Sure.
So that where they might have $200,000 making 2% in a CD, if they did really good somehow,
If they got one a few years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe.
they could have that $200,000 instead earning 6 or 7 or 9%
Sure.
from some family who can't qualify for a bank loan but can afford to make a regular 30-year mortgage on a house.
Yeah.
And that's a good income stream. I mean, if you're 60, 70 years old and you have a guaranteed payment secured by a house that you're familiar with, you know it's a good, sound house because you used to live in it, and you've got that income stream for the next 30 years, what are you ever going to have to worry about for the next 30 years?
Well, only serious acts of God, I suppose, or acts of war, really.
Well, that's it. It'd have to be an act of war. I mean, because if anything else, the insurance company is going to write you a fat check, and you'll be back with that pile of cash to worry about where to invest it.
Unless you were in Landers in, what was it, 1994? It didn't have earthquake insurance?
Yeah, but think about it. A house that stood in Southern California for 30 years is probably going to survive most all of the next earthquakes. Not to stop the government from selling earthquake insurance to people, but I don't usually find it really necessary to worry about it. And I think my 50-year-old house is going to survive the next few earthquakes it goes through.
I think so. Yeah, I remember after having my mom's an appraiser, so she went out, and she was at that time in San Fernando Valley, so she had to do a lot of appraisals on homes that had recently gotten a mortgage, and of course the earthquake happened, and then the banks want somebody to go out and assess the damage. So she went out and took out pictures of tons of houses, and I remember seeing she kept pictures of like the worst ones. And there was this Craftsman, something built probably in the mid 1920s, and beautiful home, and it was just completely off its foundation, but the house was completely intact, just sort of leaning.
Yeah.
It was off the foundation on one side of the house. So
how hard is that to fix? It's really not. I mean, they jacked that house up. If there was a freeway going through that neighborhood, they'd jack it up, put it on a truck, and drag it to another neighborhood and put it back on a foundation. It's really not a big deal to re-foundation a house.
Yeah, unless, if you crack a slab, it's a little different.
That can be fixed too.
It can.
A
little more expensive,
It's
though.
when the slab goes down
somewhere.
2 feet on one side or up 2 feet on one side, then you have an issue.
Yep.
But that's the exception, not the rule. I
Yeah.
mean, how many houses did that? I remember we were in the air on our honeymoon, my wife and I, during the Northridge earthquake.
Oh, no kidding.
So we landed in Hawaii to everybody saying, "Oh, it's so awful what happened in California," when they find out you're from California.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we had no idea.
No idea,
'Cause
yeah.
back then they didn't put it on the, there
internet,
wasn't
yeah.
news and no internet. You got a movie if you were lucky, and
Right.
and generally you slept on an airplane because that was the best thing to do. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock to find out what had happened while we were there.
But again, no real damage to your property, I'm sure.
Oh no, I mean that's
A couple pictures knocked off the walls.
if that. It was funny. Talk about the Landers earthquake. A funny story about my wife. She's a California native, been
Okay.
here forever, and we're living in a manufactured house in Thousand Palms, California, during the Landers earthquake.
Okay.
And that happened in the middle of the night, for those of you that don't know.
I remember.
My wife woke me up. Andy, we're having an earthquake. We got to get in the doors. It's not safe here. Well, I don't know how many of you realize that a manufactured home is built in a factory, drug down the freeway at 55 miles an hour, and then set up on a foundation or a slab and some piers.
Yeah.
And after it's done all that, the odds of it having a problem with an earthquake,
A little shaking around.
a little
yeah.
shaking around compared to going down the freeway at 55, there's really no comparison. So about the safest place you can be if you have earthquake fear is in a manufactured house. Because it's not going to do anything but wiggle a little bit.
Yeah. Or a lot. I remember Landers, I was camping.
Oh, yeah?
I was on a camp out with the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts or something. Yeah, I was camping, and I just remember everybody what was it, like 4 in the morning or something like that? It was
middle of the night. Yeah, I was
pretty
asleep.
early. Yeah, I
So-
was asleep, and I just remember I thought somebody was shaking the tent to be a a jokester or something. But yeah, and then everybody left the next day because the freeway had collapsed nearby where we were camping and all kinds of stuff. 'Cause
Oh.
We were camping in Three Falls, I think is what it was called. Somewhere,
Okay.
I don't know. It was
up the hill.
yeah, somewhere pretty close to it. So
Oh, yeah.
we got shook pretty good. I remember that one real well.
I remember there was a place up there, we called it Dave's Place. No idea where it was or how to get there again, but it was just someplace in the middle of the desert that someone found and regularly people camped at for just,
Up at Dave's place.
that's it, up at Dave's Place.
Well, if you know where Dave's place is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were buying land. We'll go back to sort of where we left off.
Get back on real estate.
Yeah, we'll get back to real estate, not earthquakes. We prefer not to think about the things that could happen to the property. These are insurable events anyway. But so you're buying land, and then you at some point started buying structures with land too. So
Well, I don't know. I kind of thought I was buying residential lots at a discount, and they were throwing houses in for free. I mean, I bought a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in Desert Hot Springs for $12,500.
wow,
Now, in 2005, that vacant lot without a water meter on it was worth about $20,000. So did I buy a house or did I buy a lot at a discount?
sounds like you bought a lot at a discount.
I think so too. I got 51 doors of those suckers from those crazy banks.
Yeah, and they because they didn't know what to do with them. They didn't know, and they didn't want to deal with them.
Our institutions turn stupid every 20 years or so. They don't. There's no wisdom built into the system. You keep hiring new people that didn't live through it last time or lived through it and didn't pay attention.
Yeah, and didn't learn the lessons they should have learned.
Right.
I was watching The Big Short 2 nights ago.
Okay.
And I mean, I remember, back prior to the crash, just sort of the craziness. And I didn't know at that time what a CDO was and all these things they're talking
did?
about.
Who did?
It wasn't talked about. It wasn't something. But I think for people that had already been through a crash prior, because my mom had been through a couple crashes prior to that crash, and she was talking about it in 2004, saying, I don't know how much longer these values can sustain themselves.
Oh, I was saying it in 2005. I mean, when a fairly qualified blue-collar, low white-collar worker cannot afford a regular 30-year mortgage, fixed interest, fixed payment rate, if he can't afford that on his one salary, the house is overpriced.
Yeah.
Because if you live in Winchester, California, you should be able to pay your mortgage on one person's regular income. It should be a 30-year note, fixed.
Sure.
And the only way people were able to pay the costs, the prices that we were getting for houses in 2005 was if both people worked and if they had a crazy loan that was going to explode. And that's the only way the banks were able to lend to those people to satisfy the federal government.
Yeah.
There was no way that crash wasn't just destined to happen because of what the government forced the banks to do.
And what goes up must come down, and what goes up at a very crazy rate is going to then come down at a very crazy rate. So,
well, California has always been a slow, steady climb up the hill until it suddenly accelerates, and then once that real acceleration happens, that very soon it's going to take a precipitous drop.
Yes, it's a good word, precipitous. So I'm going to talk a little bit about investment clubs because you're involved in the Coachella Valley Club.
Yeah.
You've been out that way for a little while, and Janet and Larry French run that club.
Yeah, the Coachella Valley Real Estate Investors Association.
It's a good club.
It's an excellent club. We have a good group. It's a no pitch club. You have to be careful when you go to a Real Estate Investors Association that you're at a no pitch club because there are a lot of unscrupulous people that are in the real estate education business, and they will spend their time, instead of teaching you something that you can use, they will spend their time trying to get you to the back of the room to pull out your credit card and pay them a lot of money.
Oh, man, I've been to some bad ones.
Oh, me too. Me too. So I go to some really good ones. I love the one that you guys run. The Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club is one of the best. You guys have a great group that come together. I've made a lot of really good friends in that room.
I appreciate that.
And done a lot of good business with the people that come to that.
It's I mean, at the clubs, we didn't really have a good one in the Inland Empire, so we sort of took it upon ourselves to start a club, and it grew like crazy. We didn't expect it to grow like that. The first meeting we had was to 4 people, and we kind of were like, should we continue doing this, or
Oh yeah. It's amazing. The Coachella Valley started, I think there were 4 at our first meeting in the back of a restaurant. And now we're up. We can have 100 people show up at a meeting, and you guys have hundreds of people show up.
I know it's getting crazy where we might have to move, and we don't want to because the Mission Inn's such a nice facility, but they don't have a bigger room. So,
you just have to stack them up or start using the balcony in that room.
Yeah. If they would allow us, I don't know if they will, but we'll see. That's up to the Mission Inn. They told us to start charging more. So people, so less people would come.
Wow.
I'm thinking, we'd have to charge a lot more to get people to not come. I think.
I think you're right, and you get good speakers that aren't there trying to sell their system to other people, and you give good education.
Yeah.
Good information every month.
The haves and wants. I know that's your favorite.
That's when I first came to your meeting, I was kind of shocked you didn't have it yet, and that was something that I twisted your arm about. And now I think it's one of the best haves and wants in the industry.
I think a couple. I think you were there. It was about on January. We had a ton of people come up for haves and wants, and it was like 25 minutes of people, coming up talking about what they have to offer and things like that. And it was great, but at the same time, we're like, we really got to start limiting people's time and give them maybe 30 seconds because.
They can go on a while. You have to control that some, but fact of the matter is that's where the most business is going to be done in your meeting.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about your experience, but I found a lot of good partners there.
Yeah. Well, so I made the announcement at the last month's meeting that we were looking for a transaction coordinator, and I had 4 people immediately come up to me afterwards, and we found the right person. Through that. So for the other 3 that are listening that didn't get a call from us yet,
well,
yeah, if you're listening, which you probably aren't. No, I'm just kidding. But they
next time.
That sometimes you get approached by somebody that has experience well beyond what you were hoping for.
Sure.
And that's that was who we met at I had no idea this person was sitting in the audience. Never met them prior to. They've been to meetings of ours. I've never talked to them. And
shame on you.
I don't know if it's my fault or not. It's hard to hit 200 people in one night. So
it is, but you got to skip the ones you already know so much.
That's tough too because we enjoy the people that come. So it's hard not to say hi to your friends. But
that's it.
Hey, what are you gonna do? I'll I'll mention just a little bit, if anybody's interested in showing up to this club that Andy and I are talking about. The Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club meets at the Mission Inn in Riverside every fourth Wednesday. The doors open at 6:30 p.m. We go to about 9 o'clock, but sometimes we go over depending on how good the conversations are going. And we always meet up afterwards in the bar there at the Mission Inn, the Presidential Lounge, and that's where even more deals happen. But that's sort of an unhosted thing. It's just kind of
stay there until they throw us out,
which we usually do. I think
Yep.
you and I are usually the ones that get kicked out last. So, but so that's that. We also do 3 other satellite sort of meetings a month. One of them is a cash flow game, which is a board game created by Robert Kiyosaki.
I think it's really a real estate seminar disguised as a board game, quite frankly.
Sure. And I played it for the first time last night. I went to our own cash flow game hosted by Lisa, one of our members.
Was it last night and I missed it?
It was last night. You missed it.
That's not like me to miss it.
It was
I
a
gotta
bummer.
check my meetup settings.
We had a good group of people. We had a good maybe just under 30 people came, and what we have 4 or 5 games being played simultaneously, and
Excellent.
it was the first time I'd ever played. I ended up winning, because I know how to structure deals. So
Winning is an interesting concept in cash flow because it's not really a competitive game if it's played right.
well, I got out of the rat race first, and
Okay.
then I ended up getting to my goal of 50,000 in additional cash flow on top of that first.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well,
Well,
maybe I'm just a good dice roller. Who knows? But
you know what? It has more to do with your ability of paying attention to what surrounds you. And that's the biggest lesson I get from it is watching people as they play. And somebody will do something and end up with a pile of cash. And it's interesting to watch the people that get opportunities presented that keep going for the small deals thinking that the only cash they can use is their own.
right.
Instead of understanding that you have access to all the cash that your immediate network has.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pay attention to that and somebody's rich, there's no reason to go for small deals. Try to find a good big deal.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to get out of the rat race. And
Yeah, the big deals, they're all good. And I didn't notice any stock option ones in the big deal section.
there's no stock in big deals. That's just not in the game. It's not built that way. And it's also not that way in life so much. I mean, you're not going to find an investor to put up $500,000 to help you buy stock.
Yeah.
Where you will probably find an investor if you have a good, solid real estate opportunity to partner with you on that. And that's the way it works in the game. And believe it or not, that's the way it works in real life. You've seen a number of times, I'm sure, the study that says if you take the average net worth of your close circle of friends, you will find your average net worth right there in it.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And if you
Fortunately, my friends are a lot richer because of me. No.
that helps. I mean, if you're the guy that makes people richer, that's going to make things work well for you.
Yeah, and they make me poorer. Thanks. No, I'm just I'm looking at the camera when I say it. Hopefully they're not watching.
Oh, well, you never know.
Who knows? It's just we're having fun.
There you go.
But I was going to mention the other 2 satellite things aside from cash flow, which was a lot of fun. Had a great time. Learned a lot. I learned. Well, I guess I created. I don't know if I created it or not. But before he even could read the card, the guy next to me, I said, you know what? I'll pay you $10 not to read it and sell me that card right now for $10.
Did he do it?
Yeah. And fortunately, I bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with that card.
That was a silly thing for him to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Did
but
you cut him in for a piece of it because you're a nice guy?
I did not. I didn't.
Then you taught him something, didn't you?
I taught him something, the value of listening out an entire opportunity, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was fun. We had a good time. Yeah. So the other couple things we do with the club, and these are free. The cash flow thing's free. We do that at the Bar and Grill Company in Ukaipa.
Well, hopefully people will eat because they have really good menu there and a full-service bar.
That burger was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, and good people. It's probably a fun place to hang out when there's not a cash flow game.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And they have karaoke on Thursday nights, so if you want to go out tonight,
there you go.
can to
Nobody
karaoke.
wants to hear me sing karaoke.
Okay, so then we also do another get-together networking thing, which is we call it the happy hour, where we get together at a local bar in the Inland Empire somewhere and just hang out.
I thought, that used to always be on the first Friday, but you must have moved it if cash flow is going to be on the first Wednesday.
Well, we didn't do it in February because the place we wanted to go wasn't open yet, And
Okay.
we're busy people, so it was tough for us to find another place because you got to let the bar owners know usually, hey, we're
yeah.
gonna have about 50 people show up here
Yeah.
that are gonna be
Surprise.
thirsty and hungry.
That's
so,
right.
Early on a Friday night, so they're usually beefing up, but restaurants the way they operate, they don't bring people on till about 5. So
Not
if
till
we
you
have-
need them.
Yep. So we got to let them know we're coming. But yeah, we didn't do one. We actually don't have one scheduled in for March yet, but we're working on it.
Okay.
We're hoping the place we were trying to go last month will be available and open.
Well, good.
So we'll see. We also do a Saturday morning coffee, which we got that idea from the people down in San Diego, the North San Diego club. They do a Saturday morning coffee.
Sure.
We started it off as a book club where we would assign a book to read every month.
Right.
And then Stephen and I would go home and read it, in our free time, and then we'd go and talk about it at the meetup.
So when you showed up and you hadn't quite finished yet, it must have been an interesting meeting.
We always finished the book.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But there were the people that showed up. Most of the other people didn't read the book. They would just sit there and listen to me, Stephen, and Maria, and whoever else read the book.
Right. The three
And
of you.
The three of us discuss it. Yeah. So there'd be a bunch of people just paying attention, which was good. But at the same time, we thought, you know what? Let's make this like another, networking kind of thing. It's fun. Just get together, have some coffee, and whatever. So that's what we do. And actually met a lot of great people at that. People that can't come on a Wednesday night because they work, Thursday morning and they can't come out. So a lot of people that don't come to any of the other meetings come to the Saturday morning coffee thing.
That's interesting. It's kind of a long drive for morning.
Yeah, you have to leave pretty early to get out here by 8
Oh
a.m.
yeah, the meeting I'm going to tomorrow, which is the Orange Coast Exchangers in San Juan Capistrano. Excellent meeting. You haven't seen you there yet. You've got to come.
I
one
want
of these
to go.
days, to learn how to do a 1031 exchange without the Starker variation on it, using that darn facilitator. It starts at 9 a.m. in San Juan Capistrano. It's at Marie Callender's, and for me to get there, I have to be in my truck at 5:15, leaving La Quinta, so I can be in San Juan Capistrano about 8. I've learned if I leave closer to 6, I don't get there till 10, and I miss the first hour, and that's no fun at all.
Yeah, you don't want to miss the beginning.
No.
All the best stuff happens in the beginning.
You might find the deal that's going to make me $1 million happened when I was not there, and that's not something I want to have happen. So
some guy looking for 300 acres scattered about Riverside County to
That's
trade
it.
for something else.
somebody wants that 180 acres of wind farm I got up in the hills above Indio.
It could work.
Yeah,
You
somebody's
never know.
going to want it.
Do you pretty much bring that stuff with you every time you go? You always know I have this available, and do you ever announce it that you're looking to trade
Oh yeah,
for something?
that's the way that the meeting works. Is someone will present what they have that they want to divest.
Sure.
You could have somebody show up that's, for example, somebody showed up with a mobile home park that a widow had bought thinking it was a good investment. Because she was running out of time on a 1031 exchange, she bought it without doing her due diligence.
Oh.
And got something that was worthless when push came to shove to her, because she was not in a position to fix a mobile home park.
Was this that one I've been hearing about? It's kind of been making the rounds around the group. This mobile home park that somebody had tore all the water pipes out of.
No, this one's just been abandoned for a long time. But
Okay.
it needs a complete rebuild.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I think I just heard about a mobile home park somewhere in
Sure.
the country that somebody bought it and didn't realize it had all the water pipes that were in it when they originally went under contract to buy it were no longer there when they ended up owning it.
That's interesting. The wonderful world of due diligence. You have to pay attention to what you're buying. But the thing is that now that comes up, and now I have to find something that interests the person that owns the mobile home park. And,
Sure.
And that's when maybe that 160 acres of wind farm is something that will work for them.
Yeah.
So,
Like for like transfer of some kind.
yeah, it's a question of people that have things that they don't want, and they're looking to find something they like better. And it's a great opportunity. You don't wave that big red flag in front of the IRS that you do when you use a facilitator in exchange. There's none of that 45-day rule or 180-day rule stuff. You just avoid all that.
Yeah. And that's completely legitimate.
Absolutely. It predates the Starker case, where they basically decided that the court decided that it was legal to sell something and buy something and call that an exchange.
Yep.
Because, the Orange Coast Exchangers was established in the 1960s, and that was well before that Starker case, and you actually had to find something to exchange if you had a mobile home park and you're 80 years old and some guy was 45 and had a Rite Aid triple net lease, you probably like that triple net lease a lot better than your mobile home park you've been running for the last 30 years.
Maybe.
And the guy that's 45 and has a triple net lease probably would rather have the mobile home park because he can see growing it and putting effort into it because he's not 30 years of burnt out.
Right.
So those two people could exchange their ownership, and their basis would make the traverse with them, and they would both exchange their benefits, and each person would appreciate the benefits that they had better.
Yeah. It's a trade up in both their minds.
Right, and this group has been doing it for 50 years almost, and
Wow.
like I said, it's worth the drive.
And you make trades at this thing? You've done them before there? Trades for stuff? Or?
Oh yeah, you trade, something you have for something somebody else has, and I had a piece of land in the city of Harupa Valley that somebody liked that land better than his Maserati, so I decided I liked the Maserati better than I liked the land. So it's just a matter of I liked what he had and he liked what I had, so we traded.
Traded, yeah.
That's a good way to do a business.
I like it. So what do you do with the Maserati now?
It's long gone.
So you like something else more than the Maserati?
Yeah. It got liquidated.
Oh, you like the cash more than the
Yeah,
Maserati?
occasionally a cash works.
Yeah,
It's the lazy man's that way out,
Yeah, cash is a tool.
That's it.
And it's a lot easier to use the cash tool than it is to use the Maserati tool.
Yeah, it's a little more flexible.
So that's that club. And then you have the Coachella Valley Club. You also host the cash flow game for the Coachella Valley Club.
I've been running the cash flow game in Coachella Valley for 6 years now, I think, a long time.
Yeah, and so Steven, my partner Steven, he never played cash flow until he went to your cash flow game.
Yeah.
So he went to yours, and he was trying to do his best to show us how it's played at Andy's club, and he said it's a little different how you do it, but you don't play by the traditional rules, and you don't use the cash that's in the the box.
That slows everything down.
I could see how that would, because every single turn you're going, you have to rewrite out how much you got in your paycheck if you got a paycheck.
Oh, and draw it, and some poor guy has to be the banker and maybe play it while he's being the banker, and he's constantly paying out money and collecting money, and it just slows things down an awful lot. And I have to say, I learned that system from a gentleman who had a cash flow club in Murrieta and ran it for a couple of years. It was actually, the game is so entertaining and educational. It was worth it to me to drive over the mountain to Murrieta once a month to play cash flow for 3 hours.
We kind of we kicked around the idea of doing a cash flow thing that would be a paid in version of it, where everybody pays in, say $20. We have 6 tables of people playing, each with 6 players, and whoever gets out of the rat race first goes to the main table, and the main table shares in the purse.
The only problem with that is then it gets competitive, and it's better to keep it educational, I think.
We could do the educational one for fun, and then do the competitive one for the people that want to take it to the next level.
You never know. It just might be the way to do it.
Healthy competition's always fun.
Yeah.
We, most of the people that go to the clubs, they're all there for the same thing. We're all technically competitors, but it's a very tight knit community where it's not like we're competing. We're not cutthroat with each other, but it's. I
don't know.
Healthy.
Everybody's got their little corner. I have a feeling that in the Inland Empire Real Estate Club, if I was to be there and somebody offered a mobile home for sale, I'd probably be the guy that bought it.
Yeah.
There may be 1 or 2 other people in the room that are going to get excited about a good deal on a mobile home, but I kind of doubt that the whole room is going to be interested in that.
Yeah.
And if you were to have a fourplex someplace that would require a bunch of management, it's not going to excite me much. I've been there, done that, and I don't want any more of those.
Yeah, and I don't want it if I have to put money into it.
Yeah, well, you've got to put money into a lot of things to get them running right.
What?
It happens.
Who's putting money in deals? Why are they doing that?
Oh, well, you got to put somebody's money in, not necessarily your own.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about other people's money. I just,
Oh, okay.
But that's the fun way we like to buy properties, with other people's money, which is, and so we started up this accelerator thing in the office.
Yeah.
And we just started.
How's that coming?
Yesterday was day 1. So we had quite a few people show up, and then I think we had like 4 or 5 people make it in today because everybody has different schedules of when they can make it. But also, the deals are out there. They're not in the office sitting in front of a computer. So we're always trying to encourage people to go out and do that. But the accelerator started. We're kind of like this week just letting them get comfortable with the space, and then we're going to have like sort of a get-together and talk about how do we want to, like, what do we want to learn? What do we really want to focus on? How are we going to get to that information? How is that going to educate us? And so what we didn't want anybody to do is just assume that we were going to just stand in front of the room every day and teach.
Right.
Because that's not how real estate is learned.
You got to go bang your head a few times. I mean, the best sales manager I ever had took all the comfy chairs out of the office and gave us straight back dining chairs with wooden seats. And his thing was, you're not making a penny when you're in here. You need to go out talking to people.
Yeah.
And it's the same in real estate. I mean, there's a certain amount of work to be done at that computer, but you're going to find your deals out talking to folks.
Yeah. And so, I know you talk to a lot of people.
Constantly.
You deal a lot with mobile home parks, mobile home owners, things like that too.
That's it.
And so when you're doing a mobile home park or a mobile home deal specifically, are the owners usually the people that live in them?
Usually.
It's
pretty rare for me to buy something from someone else, although occasionally you buy it from an heir.
Okay.
You know?
I've dealt with that one before.
Right.
Somebody inherited a mobile home that mom owned and lived in, and they live in San Diego and don't want to deal with a mobile home up in Desert Hot Springs or Hemet. Yeah, actually, this one was in Banning.
Right. And it's an asset to the right person, but to somebody that lives in San Diego that has to pay space around on an empty mobile home, it's not an asset, it's a liability.
Yeah, and a giant pain because, there's work that needed to be done, didn't have the money to do it, and so,
right.
It was just a problem.
Better to let somebody else have that problem.
Yeah. So you're doing. Let's talk about the Millionaire Makers too, because we're running short on time.
Sure.
So we want to talk about this because this is a seminar that you're putting on.
Well, I'm on the committee.
Okay, there you go.
I'm one of the teachers. We've got 8 different subjects that we're going to be discussing. We're going to teach everybody how to run the financial calculator, because the best way to know how a deal really works is if you know how to use your HP 10 BII.
Yeah.
So we got a class on that. I'm teaching a class on deals you can do here today with very little cash, and that's for us here in Southern California. So
people that want to get cash flow here. So you're saying that cash flow is possible in Southern California today.
Absolutely. That's it. I don't buy things that don't cash flow. I don't want to have a negative geared house, as they say.
And I know exactly what you're going to teach, but I'm not going to spoil that all today here. You got to go to the club. You got to go to the thing.
That's it. We've got Steven's going to be teaching 101 ways to find and analyze a potential deal, he's got a great collection of techniques.
Yep, a lot of those are a lot of fun.
Yep. I'm going to be teaching use what you have to get what you need to get what you want, which is what you do when you don't have a lot of cash, but you have other things that you can make work.
Sure.
We've got a panel of experienced people who are going to talk about creative deal financing techniques. We've got a gentleman who's going to come and speak on basic note buying, how to buy a note at a discount. And that's a great way. Instead of that pile of cash sitting on the kitchen table or invested in CDs at 2%, maybe you can make 10 or 20 or even 7 or 8 or 9 if that's what you're comfortable with.
Sure.
Plus, we've got a great instructor coming to teach you how to use your IRA to invest in real estate instead of just in stocks and bonds. I don't know about you, but the Dow hit $21,000 this week. I don't believe that number.
Oh, yeah, it's a little frightening.
It's just a matter of time that's going to adjust. It just is not a real number.
Yeah, it's one of those numbers. Warren Buffett says, whenever people are running excitement, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know the exact quote on this one, but basically when people are excited to buy, you should be excited to sell.
Absolutely, and we've got a great title agent who's going to come and teach us what our title companies can do for us, because they're a great asset. They provide a lot of good free services to investors.
Yeah. And not as many as they used to, though.
There's still quite a bit. I mean, there's more online than there used to be.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of good information out there, and the price is right. And it's right now, if you decide to sign up for this, normally it's going to be $395. It's coming up in May. It's the 18th, 19th, and the 19th, 20th, and 21st. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be $395, which is a heck of a bargain for 2.5 days of good, solid education.
I've paid a lot more money for one-day events.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. However, if you're listening now and you decide to sign up and you go to MillionaireMakersNextGen.com, that's MillionaireMakersNextGen.com, and if you use the code tonight, you can get in for only $225, but this code's only good for 24 hours. So don't dawdle. Sign up today and save yourself about half. That's MillionaireMakers.com. No, MillionaireMakersNextGen.com. We're the next generation of millionaire makers.
Yep, that's going to be a great event. I mean, this is obviously the first ever one of these, the Millionaire Makers Next Gen, but you've been to the old Millionaire Makers.
I didn't get to the original. The Millionaire Makers was phenomenal. It was 600 people. It was right after 9/11. It was in Las Vegas for 5 days with some of the very best real estate educators that were available. And unfortunately, at this point, about half of them are no longer with us. So hopefully we've got that same caliber of educator, and they're a little bit younger now.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will be the beginning of great education to come.
I hope so. I mean, it's very important stuff, and if you want to be a real estate investor, I think this is actually a very good place to start. And you have to kind of start with an idea that comes from this sort of stuff. All these different subjects you guys are going to be covering are going to be valuable to people that want to do it. And a lot of this stuff is very high level too. So if you're already in real estate and you might be looking for another way to make money in real estate, this should get the gears turning a little bit. I know when I took that 10B2 class on financial calculator with Bill Tan,
yeah.
I mean, the gears just started turning like crazy after that, and they haven't stopped. So
it was annoying to me when I took my first calculator class because I realized I had screwed up on a few deals that I thought were phenomenal deals, and when I ran the numbers, I realized they weren't nearly as good as I thought they were.
That is great. I was kind of bummed out though. I couldn't, with the cash flow game last night, use my 10B2 because I was told it's simple interest only.
Yeah, everything's pretty much built into it, so it can't, you don't get too complicated, but then it's a basic game. It's good education.
Yeah.
It should give you inspiration to go out and do in real life what you see there.
Yeah, I think so. So we got only about 5 minutes left before we got to wrap up. So is there anything else you really want to talk about with the folks out there?
Well, I encourage you, if you have any interest in getting out of the rat race, to find a cash flow game in your area. Mm-hmm. There's good ones here. Come to Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. Come to Coachella Valley Real Estate Investors Association. There's good people there who are basically there to help you learn. There's no profit being made by either of those organizations. It certainly the organizers of both of those clubs are writing a check every month to pay the hotel.
Yep.
Because there's no way you can get enough butts in the seat to pay what it costs to have a hotel room and run an organization like that.
Yeah, I wish the Mission Inn would give us the room for free, but they don't.
They're funny that way, and that's just called capitalism. So.
Yeah, I know. If I owned a hotel, I don't think I'd rent it out for free either.
No, it's not usually free.
The Coachella Valley, where do they meet? What time?
We meet on the watch me screw this up. The second Tuesday at 6:30, and it's at Embassy Suites in Palm Desert. And if you go to cvreia.com, that's the website. It's a meetup group, and you'll get all the details, and you can see who's speaking.
Yep.
We've got a really good one coming this month. I wish I could tell you what her name is, but of course I start the sentence and she falls out of my head. But I'm really looking forward to that. And our cash flow game is always Wednesday on the following week.
Okay.
So we used to say it was always the third Wednesday, but like this month, we've got the second Tuesday and the third Wednesday adjacent, so it's not going to be until the fourth Wednesday, which is when
our meeting is.
So you're going to be in Riverside, since you're in Riverside or San Bernardino listening to us now, most likely.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I mean, or you could bring the cash flow game and set it up or something. I don't know.
Cocos would miss us.
That's true. So I guess the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, if you're interested in coming out to Riverside and don't want to make the trek out to Palm Desert, which you should, you can come out to the club, Mission Inn, fourth Wednesday of the month. That starts at 6:30 p.m. You can get more information on meetup.com, or you can go on Google and type in, Inland Empire Real Estate Investors or Inland Empire Investors. It comes up. I don't know how we did it, but for some reason Google really likes the club.
Good.
You could type in some very odd things. We show up as the first result.
Well, that means your IT guy is doing his job.
That would be me, and I didn't even know I was doing it. So, so don't hire me for IT.
It's organic.
That's the right way to do it. I guess Google has a thing for clubs that that provide stuff for the community. So,
and I will say that anybody that's interested should come to Orange Coast Exchangers. Meetings tomorrow. Anything that gets me out of bed and into my truck at 5:15 in the morning is obviously worth the time.
That's a very good way to put it. And let's see what else. There was one other thing I was going to mention about the club. We are keeping the speaker this month a secret on the fourth Wednesday.
Oh, is he going to wear a paper bag like the unknown comic?
That's not a bad idea. We'll run it by them and see what they think of that. But yeah, we're keeping it secret, but it's going to be a great meeting, and everybody should definitely come check it out and come prepared to stay late if you want to, and stay at the Presidential Lounge, because we always have a great time afterwards.
Yep.
Other than that, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so I really appreciate you coming out, Andy.
Glad to do it. I'll come anytime.
Good. Yeah. Well, next time I need somebody to fill a spot, maybe I'll call you.
There you go.
But yeah, because we have a lot to talk about. We didn't even finish the whole story. We barely got into how you got into real estate. So next time we'll talk more about real estate. And the next time will be, of course, next Thursday at 4:00 p.m. right here on KCAA. 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. And, of course, those of you listening online and at Ustream.com, we appreciate you tuning in, and we will talk to you all again next week. Have a great week, everyone. Take care.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
I'm Tom Busby, CNBC. Apple, Microsoft, eBay, Airbnb, Williams-Sonoma, IBM, all among 53 companies